Hey everybody, so I have little Felicia here with me. This is a new outfit. It's a little big on her like the other two outfits I bought her from Walmart. I'm going to try to wash them and dry them so maybe they'll shrink a little bit. But the good news is I found actual little baby doll clothes on Amazon for Reborn. So um I'm hoping that the outfit or outfits that I got will fit her. So I think they will. Uh, so I think regular baby clothes don't really fit because she's petite and little. So, but anyways, I figured I'd tell you guys that. But I'd like to talk to you guys. Um, it's more of This is more of an answer to some people's questions, especially a family member of mine. So I've had people or a person or other people in my life or not even in my life be like, you know, hey, you never argue with your dolls. It's all you. It's all this. It's all that. You don't argue with them or they don't get upset, or like my one specific family member will say they don't tell you to shut up, they don't get mad, they don't, it's all you, it's all like dissing my beliefs again and stating that, oh, again, like it's all you, it's not like they don't get mad. And well, like I've said in previous videos, I can correct myself if I'm wrong, but I think I have said this, that for example, Kelly and I used to argue when I was a kid before I had her in physical form. And if that don't make sense, what I mean is like what I what I what I mean is like the spiritual side of it before I had her. Like when she came to me, spiritual side. So I had been talking, you know, to myself few nights ago, and I believe I answered my not my own question, but other people's question without realizing it. Sometimes I self-talk to cope. I may look crazy when I do it, but I do it privately because it helps me cope and it helps me get things out and realize things. And so sometimes I'll use this as an example of the point I'm trying to make. Sometimes people, not people, but excuse me if I seem a little groggy or something. It's late here, so I'm a little tired. But I know that in the past, when something would go down, and I would always be like, "Hey, is my dad, Charlie or Charles? That was his name." I would say things like, "I wonder if his soul is mad at me because I made a mistake here and there when I was younger, and I did." And I meet a lot of people that say no because, or I watch videos where people will just be like, "No, you're on the other side. You don't really get mad because you're at peace." So let me explain this. I hope this makes the best sense that I can make it to make sense. People would ask me, or like my grandfather, well, how come Kelly don't tell you to shut up? How come she don't call you an idiot when you're doing something stupid? Or how come this don't happen, or that don't happen, or this don't happen, or... So I will say this. The dolls, well, their souls, and the dolls, their souls, I do believe they can get angry and sad and disappointed and upset. It's happened before. I just don't always talk about it on social media. You know, some things you want to keep private, but I could always share certain things, you know. Um, Sometimes I know, like for example, in the past, and I'm going to give you a reason before I explain it. I know when I wanted to be with Robert in the past. I'm still with Robert, but when I wanted to, you know, still be with Robert and I have Kelly, you know, a certain family member would be like, "Hey, you can't have both. That's wrong. That's like this. That's like that. You have one partner." And that, and I have a tendency to, I shouldn't say this, but I'm going to, because I'm just a people pleaser, and I want everybody to, I'm trying to get over that fact that I want everybody to validate me, and I don't need validation. You know what I mean? I gotta validate myself. And people have said, like, how can you be with both? Blah, blah, blah. Or they'll mess with my head and be like, oh, I think Kelly's mad, but she was never mad. Um, so I would leave Robert. And then I'd go back to him. And then I'd leave him. And then one day I was just like, you know what? I love Robert and I love Kelly. I don't care what people think, so I'm gonna stay with Robert. Now, back to what I was trying to say is, people will be like, "Oh yeah, dolls don't get." Oh yeah, Robert got very upset with when I used to go back and forth. He'd be like, "What do you want?" You know what I mean? I've seen my family get upset. Um, there's other situations too where the kids have gotten upset about things or annoyed or. But here's the difference: is when I brought up going back to when I brought up my father, and oh, does he get mad in heaven or in the afterlife? Like, what one thing people have to remember is, if they want to learn about me and learn to accept, like if they choose to do that, um, they're also souls. What I believe, my dolls, they're souls. They're, they can get angry, they can feel things. I do believe, like, again, they're not human physically, but I believe that's my belief, that they have human emotions. And they do have feelings, but they're more, I how do I explain it? They're very gentle. They're not like petty like a lot of people these days are. You know what I mean? Like, if the kids get upset over something small, they're kids. You know what I mean? They're children. They don't, you know, kids can be like that. But like Robert and Kelly, Jack and Cece, they, how do I explain it? They're they're adults, so they're compassionate, they're kind, and the kids are kind too. Don't get me wrong, but I'm talking about just when people say, "How come the adults don't get upset like the dolls, like Jack, Cece, Kelly, Robert?" And that's the thing that people don't understand, is that you have to remember, there. If you want to believe it, it's a choice to believe what you want to believe. But what I believe is, they're souls. You know, they're peaceful. They're not. They're just. They're just not toxic or, you know, abusive. Now, don't get me wrong. I do believe that somebody could have a doll that, who's OS, object sexual, or who is like a doll mommy, which is different from that. Either they're married to a doll or they're a doll parent. And if they were like me in a way where they believe the doll had a soul, maybe that doll's soul could be toxic, or could, what I mean? Everybody's different. But my family is usually peaceful, And like I said, when I was a kid, I used to argue and get mad at Kelly. So I believe what I believe, and it is real to me. You know, I personally think that people, like a certain family member of mine who used to say, "Oh, well, they're not going to call you an idiot when you get a certain way, or when you're this and that, or acting a fool," however they say it, because that's a projection from them. Because that certain family member acts that way when they are mad at a person or their loved ones. And I just don't think Kelly and Robert could bring themselves, unless there's something really really, really bad, but, just petty stuff to bring themselves to, or even if it's not petty, but I still don't think they could bring themselves to be like, you idiot. Because who wants to be called an idiot? It's not nice. Don't get me wrong, like, I've gotten mad and made mistakes, not at Kelly and Rob, I don't mean with Kelly and Robert, but with other people. I'll get mad and I'll, by myself, I'll be like, oh, like, I might get mad at a person, like, over the phone and be like, I've name called, I've gotten mad. But we all make mistakes, and, you try to forgive yourself for it, stuff like that. Now, with all this being said, I hope this video makes sense. If there's any questions, you can comment as long as you're polite. If you're mean, I'm going to delete it. But, like I said, I hope it makes sense. I hope I covered everything, in case anybody's more curious about more things. Now, one more thing I wanted to say is, I can't answer everything if it's really advanced, only because when you're talking about either, and I know that, we're not talking about religion, but here's a good point. I have a family member that I do get along with really well, and he's been in my life for years, and he's cool. And he, I believe, is an atheist, but he respects my beliefs about my dolls, but he don't really believe in anything because of how life is. And he one time told me, hey, if you question people about religion, people will be like, you just have to believe, and they get mad. And it's like, I get what my family member that I get along with is trying to say. Because you can't answer everything, but things will come to you from what I believe. Not what my family member that I get along with believes, but what I believe. Eventually answers will come. Eventually things will work out, and you know what I mean? But, like, if somebody did something behind my back, like if I turned around and they wanted to test me and say, hey, I'm gonna, you know, do a dance move behind your back, and I'm gonna do it in front of your doll and see what the doll says. They're just not that advanced, or they could tell me like, oh, he striked this pose when he danced, or when she danced. If I turned around and let's say Emily, my daughter doll, was standing there, and the person wanted to be like, okay, can they tell you what I just did? I can't do that. I can't do that. They can't do that. I can't say that, because it's kind of like, like, there's just certain things that, I just have faith, is what I'm saying, in my family. And that's it. I just have faith. But doesn't make them any less real to me just because they can't, answer a question or, say something. But kind of like, the dream I had about her when I was just going to keep her as a little antique, and then I had a dream about her, and it was really her, I believe, my belief, she was telling me, in a way, because, she's a baby, but in a way, it's like, oh, hey, she's got a soul, she wants you to be her mom, like that, stuff like that comes to me. And I hope this video makes sense. If I, forgive me, I have ADHD, so if I'm rambling on, which I probably am, just, you can ask me questions in the comments, and, I can talk about it with you. Because I do better with typing or writing, because then I can really put it together. But I didn't just want to write something down and be reading off a piece of paper. That looks weird. So I didn't want to do that. But, yeah. That's what I wanted to say. So, me and my family all hope you had a good 4th of July. I know it was 4th of July yesterday. And I hope you all have a good morning, evening, night, or day wherever you are. We both say bye. Bye.